Hello, everybody. This is Lee Phillips' Journey of Truth. We are here at the Loganville Baptist Church for the meeting of the Loganville Historical Society, and I think we're going to get started here in just a minute. It's 2:55 p.m. and we're supposed to start at 3 o'clock.
Goes and run errands. Hey Lee. I know
Are you trying to mess with me while I'm working?
We're gonna hack on your heckling team.
She tries to mess with me all the time. Yeah, there's a better newer picture right there. Here's a newer picture of that house in the
It's probably because it's been growing up around here for years, and I haven't really been down there in a long time.
You better go move that car right now.
Well, you parked in my spot.
We're gonna get him after the presentation.
Go tell Joanne. That's her tell.
Yes, that's a difference.
These people?
Yeah. We're just know forever.
Oh, I've been down this church a long time.
So how do you know whether that's the church or just living in it?
I don't.
Well, we've been talking to everybody since we got here. Let us know an awful lot of people.
They were talking about it.
Oh, well, welcome to the community. How about that?
Yeah. He was our teacher for a long time.
So he wants to do it himself?
I don't think I know your heart. Dr. Palmer, I'm sorry. You know the North. Now I'm a very spiritual person, and I pray, and I talk
order. Chris Gorman will be leading us in the pledge and the invocation. Chris? Let us now rise for the pledge.
Please rise. Just a point of order, just remember there's no comma in one nation under God. It's all together. And all that are veterans can salute, and everybody else put your hand over your heart. And here we go. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Everybody be seated now? Okay.
And you have the invitation.
I'll be glad to, unless you want to take my place.
No.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for the little bit of rain we got today, at least in my house. It sure was nice to have, but we could have some cool weather, but you know what's best. Thank you for each person represented here. Thank you for the citizens of Loganville that are trying to preserve our history, for the Historical Society of Loganville. Bless the food that we're going to partake in a little bit and refreshments at the end of the session, and bless the hands that have prepared it. In Christ's holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Want to do this real quick? Can I introduce her right quick?
You go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon. Today, we have a special treat. My friend Joy Bearcloth is here today, and she's providing our refreshments. And if y'all been looking over here, they're nothing but cakes. And we've got vanilla, lemon, and red velvet. And she is treating us, and I'm just gonna tell you just a little bit, because I don't wanna do a big commercial, but I'm gonna let her talk for just a minute. But she's at Dogwood Forest, she's the manager, the
Marketing
director. At
I'm the one
Dogwood,
that takes your money.
yeah. The facility in Grayson, Georgia. My mother has been there 3 years, and I can't tell you, there has been 0 complaints in 3 years. The food is delicious. One of our own from this group, Miss Neely Hall, is there. Ray Ash was there. I mean, they do great things, and when you walk in, there's nothing but smiles there. My Sunday school teacher brought his sister there, and he says when he walks in the door, he feels a peace come over him, and he loves it there. I said, well, now we know where we're gonna take you. So Joy has brought not only these cakes, but she has something that she's got for every one of us.
I want you to stay cool. This is a Dogwood fan, so I'm going to give you a lesson on how to fix this. So they're really neat because they go in your purse or your pocket if you're a gentleman. So you look at the dogwood, and then you just twist it, pull the wires together, and then it goes back into the pocket. So it's really neat to put in your pocket, on your purse, or wherever, because it's so hot these days. First of all, again, thank you for allowing me to come, and thank you for allowing me, Jean, to sponsor your dessert. And I do things like that. Dogwood is really big into the community. We, Loganville, Lawrenceville, Grayson. I sponsor a lot of things for different churches. I attend their 55 and up community meetings and their luncheons and things because that's who we are. Dogwood Forest is not owned or operated by a denomination, but we are faith-based. By saying that, it just means we do have prayer and devotions and Bible. On Sundays, they have a service in the community. But come by for lunch. My card is up there. And I'm sorry to say, but our lunches are delicious, okay? Every Wednesday's fried chicken. And then on Thursday, we have Thanksgiving every Thursday. We have turkey and dressing, and it's really good. But anyway, I don't want to take up your time, but she invited me, and I go, well, I want to meet everybody. So please, just give me a call. Come have lunch with me there. We normally serve about 12 o'clock. So come and eat up.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. God bless you.
And tour, because it's beautiful. The huge aquarium inside. I mean, it's in the fireplaces and all the big TVs. It's a beautiful, beautiful facility. And their food is good. They have a chef, and the soup every day. You have soup before every meal.
And it's
to
good.
dine for.
Thank you, guys. I'd love for you to tour. I'd love to show you around, but if you don't have time for that, just come have lunch with me. Just give me a call. My number is on the card over here, And y'all have a great meeting. It was nice to meet you. Thank you for
Thank you for coming, and thank you for the thanks.
Eat up, guys.
Thank you, Jean, and thank you, Joy, and
Oh, no.
especially thank you for these delicious refreshments. We appreciate it much. I believe Mr. Ziegler has this presentation for us for some artifacts from Loganville Baptist Church.
Thank you very much, Peggy. Can everyone hear? I'll try to speak up where that you can hear. These artifacts are mostly photos and photocopies of things that have happened at Loganville Baptist Church. In 1960, a pastor came to Loganville Baptist Church, and this facility, although this particular part of it was not here in 1960. And Dr. Coker came, and one of the things that he did was to lead the church in a building program, and the far side, the two-story part, was Sunday school rooms that were built onto the old auditorium. But before that could take place, something unusual happened to Loganville Baptist Church. Usually we want churches to go forward. On that particular day, the church literally moved backwards. It was jacked up and moved back several feet, 90 degrees to the back, and then several feet over to the right-hand side that it moved. So it's the only church that I know of that literally moved backwards during its time. The church was constituted in 1880. There was a celebration in 1980 of 100 years. If we make it to 2030, the church can celebrate 130 years. So recently, there was a problem with the cornerstone in the structure next door. And in trying to repair the cornerstone and the marker that's there, they discovered that there was an insert into the cornerstone that held some artifacts from that generation. And they were pulled out and looked at and oohed and awed over and made copies of. And so on the tables behind me up here are copies that you can look at before you leave today if you're interested in about seeing the church of 1960. There's a list also that tells the things that were in the insert into the cornerstone. So you can see those later on too. Probably the most interesting thing that was in these artifacts was a letter that was written by Dr. Coker, and he was writing to a future generation, and he had no idea when he placed this letter into the cornerstone of how long it would be there before somebody would see what happened. Recently, that container for all those artifacts was opened, and I want to read to you the letter that Dr. Coker wrote. I think it's very, very interesting. And I have a couple of extra copies if somebody wants one. And it's kind of lengthy, but it's not all about the church. It's a prophecy that he puts in there and some things that he sees that he thinks may happen. So I think you'll find it interesting. And he entitles this, "To Whom It May Concern." And that's all of you. It is a strange sensation, that of writing of a love to someone you do not know. Stranger still to write to someone in another generation. I am of the opinion that the divine head of the Holy Spirit will direct the reading of this document many years after my passing from the scene of Loganville Baptist Church. That which I choose to say to you is relative to a conviction I have and relative to the future of this beloved church and the little city of Loganville, and to give you a window-sill peep into the pastor's heart. This church has been severely hurt, twice in succession. The last two pastorates have been unhappy ones, both for the congregation as well as for my predecessors. They were capable men I can only think of them as pioneers on the field. But we came on the field in a wake of resentment and bitterness. In short, there were fences to mend ere the sheep should go astray. Today, as I sit in a beautiful study for the pastor and think of the yesteryears of 1960 and 61 and see all about me the result of spirit-led labor, I am pleased and gratified. They were capable men. I can only think of them as pioneers on the field. Now today, as I sit here in this study for the pastor and think of the yesteryears of 60 and 61 and see all about me the results of spirit-led labor, I am pleased and gratified. This little handful of Baptists have blazed a trail and have shown what faith and leadership and fellowship can accomplish when the Lord calls the church and pastor to labor together. These are a slow-to-learn people, but oh my, what a warm-hearted people I found them to be. Some of the most difficult preaching that I have ever done in my 23 years of ministry has been done here. Hates have been blasted, tears have been dried, loved ones of several who committed suicide have been consoled, the insane have been taken to the state hospital, the orphaned have been committed to the Georgia Baptist Children's Home, graft and gambling has been exposed, love has triumphed, and marriage in the old sanctuary the result. Doctors and ministers have come from her congregation, and souls have been won to Christ. Pastor and deacons have walked along together and listened as our blessed Lord directed. We have been on our knees together praying for the lost of the community. We have wept together as God revealed his precious will to us. We have planned for the future and worked for the present to the best interest of a wonderful congregation. Ours has been the quest so aptly given by the Apostle Paul to the Corinthian church. Whether you eat or drink or whatsoever you do all to the glory of God. We have made some mistakes, to be sure, little things that tend to make us cautious. For example, look at the heading on this letterhead. The printer didn't know the difference between an Old English letter B and V. And you can see when you look at the letter that that's true. The front door of the educational building was installed wrong. The door pins were put outside so anyone might draw them out and enter no matter whether the lock was on or not. The church family hadn't been challenged to tithe as they should. Young people haven't been encouraged to work in the church. There are many other things that could be mentioned. But in all, I have found here a mission field. Now, may I explain? Loganville is some 32 miles northeast of Atlanta on US Highway 78. In the very near future, I expect to learn of that highway being transformed into a vast freeway from Atlanta to South Carolina, passing through Athens, the seat for the University of Georgia. When that is done, our little city will become the bedroom for Atlanta. I predict that by 1965, our population, 1,001, will be doubled by 1970 to be 5,000. And by 1975, we will be known as the city of homes with a population of over 10,000. Now, Dr. Coker was just a little bit ahead of his time on that, wasn't he? But nevertheless, there's 85 that goes into South Carolina. There's Interstate 20 that goes to Augusta. And 78 Highway, as you well know, is filled with traffic today. In closing, let me say for the sake of the next generation, as you read this document, please remember your foreparents. We're not just average people. We realize that to be average, we are just as near the bottom as the top. This church family is far above average. We are facing race hatred and communism, but worse than these on our horizon are facing materialism and the lack of individualism in the church family and in our homes. But with a faith that will not falter, we are determined to stay true to the teachers of the truth and the calling of our Master, the Lord Jesus Christ. As we place these humble words in the cornerstone to be read by you in another century, we feel, in a sense, we are passing on the torch to you to hold it up to those succeeding you. So, hold high the torch. You did not light its glow. It was handed you by other hands, you know. I think it started on its pathway bright the day the Maker said, "Let there be light." And you once said, who hung on Calvary's tree, "You are the light of the world, go shine for me." May the God who is love and Father of all good children, the Holy Spirit who is the goader of the conscience and the keeper of the faith, and the Christ of Golgotha and the empty tomb draw you near to the heart of God and keep you steadfast under the shelter and healing of his wings forever and ever. Amen and amen. George W. Coker, pastor, Loganville Baptist Church. And I have a couple of copies of that I'll leave up here, and if you want a copy of this letter, you're welcome to it. Thank you for your attention to this, and I'm going to close with that, and you can look at the things at the table afterward, the meeting. Thank you so much.
Wrong.
Yes.
Do you know where his kids are? How many of them?
Dr. Coke and his wife had 3 children. And there were 2 boys and a girl. And I don't remember the daughter's name. She was older than the boys. And Herschel and Jerry were the 2 boys, and I'm not sure.
Twins, and they all 3 are deceased.
They're all 3 deceased according to Peggy. Thank you.
That was very, very neat, very neat. Thank you much. Our special guest today is not a stranger. She is well known, so there's not much introduction I can do. Ladybug, she is a Loganville City Council person, and Loganville through and through. We'll let you go, Melanie.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Peggy. Before I get started, there's a young man here. Curran, you want to come up here for just 1 second? He came to me a while back, and he wanted to get his Eagle Scout patch, and he's very much interested in Loganville history, and he donated to our city through his Eagle Scout program. He put, I believe it was 3 plaques.
Yeah.
There's one between the rock gym and the ag building. There's one at the cemetery, and there's one, where's the third one?
The well. Town well.
That's right, the well. And he would like to, you want to invite them?
I would like to cordially invite the entire Historical Society to my Court of Honor on this Saturday here at the Baptist Church.
And it's when?
And 5 p.m. on this Saturday.
This Saturday.
5 o'clock here at the church. And that's his, you received your Eagle Scout
Eagle
patch.
Scout ceremony.
Okay. Well, thank you for everything you did, Curran. I appreciate you, the Historical Society appreciates you, and the city of Loganville.
There will be 5 more signs that come eventually.
Yeah, eventually we'll get those done.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And also personal invitation.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we're gonna get started on this story, so y'all just settle in, because this is kind of a long story, because it takes us all over the place. I came across this story when I was working on the cemetery tour 2 years ago when we did the Old Zion Cemetery Church. In my research, I ran across this story, and it was too important to try to just lump it into the cemetery tour. So I wanted to give it its own time, and this seems like the perfect time to do it. I want y'all to know before I start, there's a lot of court records and a lot of newspapers that I'm going to read through. And I'm going to read them exactly as they were written. Some of the words used may be offensive today, but you can't erase history by trying to pretend it never happened. So I don't mean anything by what I read. I'm reading them exactly from court records and newspapers. So our program today is called Deadly Flames and denied claims, the World War II veteran that ignited Loganville. And our main characters in this story, there's two gentlemen. The first one is Isaiah Grimes, and he was a colored man. He was born sometime around 1920, and he was illiterate. He only had a 4th grade education. And on July the 11th, 1942, he was inducted into the U.S. Army at Fort Benning. He was honorably discharged from the U.S. Army on November 30th, 1943, after he served 16 months at both Fort Rucker, Alabama, and in the Southwest Pacific. He spent 1 month in Tuskegee Veterans Facility in 1946 for injuries that he sustained in his head and his hip during his wartime. He continued to suffer with dizziness and headaches throughout his life, and before our story began, about a month before that, he was set to go back to Tuskegee for further treatment. Once he got out of the Army, he drew a $27 a month monthly pension from the U.S. Veterans Administration. And when he returned to Loganville from the war, he made his living as a sharecropper. He originally worked on H.O. Bird's farm. Later, he went to work on the farm of Jim Moore, and he worked there for about a year before our story happened. He carried a $150 loan on 9 bales of cotton from the Farm Credit Administration, and he was married to Ollie Mae Grimes, and they had 3 children, Lily Frances Grimes, Sylvester Grimes, Willis Isaiah Grimes. Isaiah was a member of the Mount Zion AME Church, and he held a position of steward there. He was a member of the deacon board at Friendship Baptist, and he was called a good church worker. Our other character, also a colored man, was Fluke Catlin. And Fluke Catlin was the stepfather to Isaiah Grimes. He was married to Isaiah's mother, Maggie, and they lived on the Atlanta Highway. He had an adopted daughter, Minnie Idania. Now, in November of 1921, the Walton County Superior Court found Fluke guilty of manslaughter, and he was sentenced to 15 to 20 years. And after serving a few years in prison, his sentence was officially commuted by Governor Clifford Walker on November 4th, 1926. And as a side note, if you've attended all of my cemetery tours, you've heard me talk about Governor Clifford Walker. He was actually from Monroe, and he served as Monroe's mayor several terms. He solicited the Ku Klux Klan's support to win his 1922 governor's election, and he frequently consulted the KKK leadership on state policy matters. In 1924, a journalist revealed that Walker was a secret member of the Klan, and that same year, he spoke at a national KKK rally in Kansas City calling for a wall of steel to shut out immigrants. Walker's administration drew intense negative national press for the brutal treatment of state prisoners. He publicly supported the harsh whipping of inmates. The resulting outcry eventually led Georgia to eliminate the use of lashes in its prison. So based on those facts about Governor Walker, I find it interesting that he commuted Fluke's sentence. However, 11 of the original 12 jurors in the trial, along with many citizens and prison guards, petitioned for his release. Fluke was a local laborer who frequently commuted via the Monroe Motor Express truck line. He took out 2 small fraternal lodge insurances policies. Faith, Hope, and Charity held a policy for $80. Joy and Benevolence held the second policy for $100. And Fluke had named his adopted daughter, Minnie Idonia, as the beneficiary of both those policies. And Fluke was known to have a trouble over whiskey and had a good bit of personal debt. So that's where our story starts with these 2 gentlemen. 2 or 3 days before the story actually starts, Fluke and his wife once again had a trouble over whiskey. And as a result, Maggie, his wife, was arrested. And upon her release, she did not go home. She went to the home about a half a mile away on the same road that she and Fluke lived, where her son Isaiah lived. According to court transcripts and witness testimony, in the early evening on Saturday, May 31st, 1947, around 6:30 o'clock, Fluke Catlin and William Hill were drinking at Fluke's house. Mr. Hill testified that he was staying at Fluke's house for about an hour. He said, "When I left, Fluke was still sitting at the door with the bottle of liquor beside him. Fluke had some money in his pocket, in his shirt pocket. He rolled up a $10 bill, and he had some money in his overall pocket. He showed it to me, and he said that he had plenty of money and he had plenty of liquor. The lamp was sitting on the table on the right-hand side of Fluke by the bed. It was not lighted at that time. Mr. Hill says that he left Fluke around 7:30. Sometime after Mr. Hill's departure, something devastating happened. Several eyewitnesses accounted reporting seeing Fluke come out of his house on fire. Charles A. Kelly Jr., I think you all know him as the gentleman that started the Bank of Loganville, but in this story, he's the man that was Fluke's neighbor. That night, Charlie saw some commotion at Fluke's house and testified. I went to the door. Fluke came out the back door of the kitchen, and I couldn't see him until he was out in the yard, and he was hollering, "Somebody help me, I'm afire." And I started running towards Fluke's yard. I was approximately 200 feet from Fluke when I first saw him. I saw he was on fire from his knees burning down and up. The flames reached 5 or 6 inches from him. I got some water and helped put out the fire. Mr. Kelly went on to tell the court that he smelled kerosene. He smelled it in the yard, he smelled it on Fluke, and when he went into the house an hour or more later, he smelled kerosene there too. Mr. Kelly stated that 2 or 3 men knocked the door open on the house and found an overstuffed chair burning, and found a mattress of the bed was burning right around the outer edges and in the center. And we found this lamp was broken, and it looked like both broken and melted. Charlie stated that he knew Fluke was addicted to drinking, and while Fluke was laying there, I asked him, how did he catch a fire? And he said the house was afire, and he tried to put it out. Now, John T. Siegler, who lived across the highway from Fluke, testified, I first saw Fluke that night as he was coming out the back door, hollering for help. I ran and got a can of water to put on him. 2 big trucks stopped, and they had a fire extinguisher. He further testified that he did not go into the house until after Fluke had been sent to the hospital. He saw the chair and the mattress burning, as well as the lamp broken in several pieces. He stated that if the house was on fire at all, it was right around the edge of the wall. And Fred E. Clay testified, I was downtown and someone said there was a Negro afire up the road. There were several there when I got there. The shoes looked like they had oil spots on them, and I went in the house. The condition of the lamp was it was melted glass. The house did not burn up. We took the mattress and old chair out, and somebody brought some water and threw it on the paper up on the wall. He went on to testify, I smelled kerosene out in the yard. It was on the side next to the kitchen door, and I was right by him, and I didn't smell kerosene, but as I got near the house, I smelled it. I think the smell of kerosene was stronger inside of the house than outside. Loganville Police Officer Albert Sellers testified in court that around 10 o'clock he was called to go to Fluke's house, that there was a man burning up. According to Officer Sellers, Fluke Catlin's clothes were practically burned off. He was laying on the side of the highway. He was burning from the waistline down and part of the way up, and he had a few little strings on him. One of his shoes was burned badly. I went in the house. A big overstuffed chair was almost a live coal of fire, and the mattress was afire. The bed was between 6 and 8 feet from the chair, and the lamp was on the floor, broken halfway between the bed and the chair, and it was just a pile of glass. Officer Sellers noted that there was an abrasion on Fluke's head, just above the left ear. The skin was broken there. I saw some signs of blood there, and it was bleeding a little. There was no witness nor any evidence that Isaiah was seen at or near Fluke's home at the time of the fire. Isaiah's mother, Maggie, was still at Isaiah's place when that fire occurred. Fluke succumbed to his injuries a month later on July 1st, 1947. Isaiah was arrested for the murder of Fluke Catlin about 6 months after the fire and was placed in jail. Isaiah's mother denies knowledge of guilt. In multiple newspaper interviews, she said that Isaiah was not present when Fluke was burned. She said that Fluke was in a drunken condition, and when he tried to move the oil lamp while in a state of intoxication, he dropped the lamp and flames engulfed him. Maggie also testified in court that Fluke gave a dying declaration, saying that he told her on his deathbed, I don't know how I got burned, unless I tried to cross my legs and knock the lamp off. Isaiah himself made 2 different statements about the fire to officers. In the first statement that was made on December 15th, and he made a second statement some days later. The first statement was that he went to Fluke's house and got into an argument with him about a debt which Fluke claimed he owed him, and Fluke struck at him, and that he picked up the lamp that was lighted and he struck him in the face and bursted the lamp and set Fluke afire. He changed that to some extent the second time. In the second statement, he said, "We went there and got in a discussion about this debt, and an argument followed, and that Fluke struck at him, and when he struck Fluke and knocked him down back in the chair, Fluke passed out, and that he got his lamp, and he took the burner out and poured kerosene on him from the bowl of the lamp and struck the lighted burner to him and ignited the kerosene." Isaiah's trial was held in the Georgia Supreme Court and presided over by Judge Henry West. Isaiah was represented by Daniel Duke, A.T. Walden, and Frank A. Bowers. Money for Isaiah's defense was raised by the Georgia Citizens Defense Committee. Isaiah was found guilty of Fluke's murder on December 17, 1949, and he was convicted with a recommendation to mercy. The recommendation to mercy shielded Isaiah from the death penalty, but carried a mandatory life sentence. Judge Henry West told Grimes that he was lucky because an all-white jury had found him guilty of murdering his stepfather with a recommendation of mercy. Earlier, in 1948, Judge Henry West had made a historic and precedent-setting court case ruling that 4 panels made of white jurors called for his term of court not to take up the case of Isaiah Grimes because Negroes had not been called for jury duty. Grimes had a Klan-busting attorney, Daniel Duke, and he challenged the jury panel in the system of drawing jurors in Walton County. He presented a petition showing that Walton County had 710 Negro names on its tax books, but had no Negroes on grand jury or trial juries for more than 20 years. He based his motion on a U.S. Supreme Court ruling that exclusion of Negroes from juries because of their race is a violation of the U.S. Constitution. Attorney Duke released a statement for publication in which he said, "I would be derelict in my duty and unworthy of being a member of the legal profession if I did not raise the defense of this 27-year-old veteran who fought for equal justice under the law and was severely wounded in the Italian campaign." He continued, "We in Georgia must accept the law as it is interpreted by the United States Supreme Court." He said, "Today in Georgia there are 120 counties that have legally qualified Negro citizens eligible for jury service that do not have the names of any Negroes in their grand or petite jury boxes, Walton County being one of them. Several Negroes testified that they owned hundreds of acres of land and other assets but had never been called for jury duty. One witness had lived in Walton County for 68 years and had never heard of a Negro being summoned for jury duty. The chief clerk of Walton County, under cross-examination, stated that he had been in charge of the jury list since August 13, 1928, and no Negro had been called for jury service, despite the fact that several hundred could have been on there based on their taxes paid. The precedent set made history as Negroes were on the jury list as of August 1948, and subject to be drawn for jury duty. Now, you would think our story ends there, but it doesn't, because that's just actually the beginning. After Fluke's death, Fluke's wife Maggie was being hounded by debt collectors, so she attempted to collect the 2 fraternal lodge insurance policies that Fluke had taken out. Thank you, Lee. The organizations refused to pay out because Fluke had listed the beneficiary as his adopted daughter, Minnie Idonia, who was a minor, and therefore she was not eligible to receive the money. In the 4 to 5 months following Fluke's death, there were 3 arson fires in Loganville. The Mount Zion AME Church was burned on August 22nd, 1947. Friendship Baptist Church was burned on October 3rd, 1947, and the Loganville Colored School Building was burned on November 21st, 1947. A reward was offered for information leading to an arrest and conviction of the person or persons involved in the burnings. The reward was $800. The city of Loganville put in $100, Walton County put in $500, and Georgia Governor Thompson put in $200 from the state. Now, our first arson was Mount Zion AME Church, and that was investigated by police officer Albert Sellers. And he testified that the fire occurred around 12 or 1 o'clock on August 22nd. He stated that the weather was kind of misty. He said that the structure was wooden and there was no brush around the building and that it was not in bad condition before the fire. And when he got to the fire, the front of the church had already fallen in. he said that when they shot water to the fire, it would flare up again and the water wouldn't put the fire out. Charles M. Hughley, special agent for the National Board of Fire Underwriters, testified to police officer Sellers' account of the fire not being able to be put out with water. Hughley testified, "Where there's a fire, the fire is generally extinguished when the surface is covered with water. When the fire flares up again and again and again, that would indicate the presence of a volatile liquid." Luther Gordon seems to have been an official of both the lodges, Home Mission and Faith and Hope and Charity, and he testified that Maggie Catlin made a demand in the street and made her first demand at the Home Mission Lodge at one of his meetings in the Mount Zion Church. The lodge would not pay the demand to her because the beneficiary, Minnie Catlin, was a minor, and the mother had no lawful authority to collect it. Therefore, the lodge members left the Mount Zion Church about 9 or 10 o'clock, and the church was burned that night about 12 or 1. Luke Streety, the doorkeeper at the lodge, testified, "I remember the occasion Maggie came down there to the lodge. The lodge was in meeting there. Luther Gordon was head of the lodge. Isaiah came there with her. 5 of them came there. Maggie, Isaiah, Willie Malcolm, Maggie's daughter Eliza May, and the little girl. And they were making a lot of racket out there. And they authorized me to go out there and get them to stop making a fuss. And Maggie Catlin said she wanted the lodge money on account of Fluke's death. That is what she wanted," she said, "and she kept a-raising a fuss, and I went out there to stop her. She said she is going to have that money before she left there. As to what else she said, I don't know, I left." Now, Charlie Kelly, once again, sworn for the defense, he testified, "I recall the night last August when the Mount Zion Church was burned. I recall seeing Isaiah Grimes that night. Now, Isaiah lives on the other side from me, and at that time he was living at Mr. Jim Moore's farm, which is a half or 3/4 of a mile beyond my house. I saw him and I saw the fire. And after that I saw Isaiah. I picked him up in the highway, just about 100 or feet so from outside my house. He was trotting along the highway towards the fire, and this was about a half a mile from where he was living then. He was coming from the direction where he lived, from that direction towards the fire. It was about 100 or 150 feet from where I picked him up to the front of my house. I'd just come out of my driveway of my house. It was dark, and he couldn't see me in the dark, and I hollered to him, and I asked him if he was going to the fire. And he didn't say anything, but he walked to the car, and when he got side of the car, I told him to get on the side of the car, and he did. He got on the side of the running board and rode down the highway, this side of the church, and got off and went into the crowd, and I didn't see Isaiah anymore that night. Now that was after midnight, about 1 o'clock. I could not recall exactly. It is just about a half a mile from the point where I picked him up to the fire. And that fire had burned a good long time before I ever started from home. It had burned a good little bit before I discovered it. I live on the west side of the highway, and anybody could certainly have come through those fields and come to my house without coming on the road and all. Then I would say there would have been sufficient time for anybody to leave the church after the fire started and come by my house at the time I picked him up, because the church had practically burned down. I don't know where Isaiah was before I saw him. He could have been to the church and come back around when I picked him up. One of the witnesses for the defendant, Pearlie Williams, on cross-examination stated that Maggie Catlin said something about Luther Gordon being the cause of her not getting the insurance money. And she said that Luther Gordon was a son of a, and she was gonna get even with him if he didn't pay her the money. Now what's interesting is when the Mount Zion AME church burned down, the lodges, they moved their meetings to the Friendship Baptist Church. So our second fire was the Friendship Baptist Church. And Officer Sellers testified that the church was a wooden structure. It had Rockefeller foundation, and as to weather conditions, he said it was fair as best I recall. He said it wasn't lightning or anything of that kind. Luther Gordon testified that the Friendship Church fire broke out around 11:30 or 12 o'clock, and that there was no lodge meeting there that night. Alfred Grimes, Isaiah's uncle, testified, "At my house that night, Friendship Church burned. We was playing Florida String. me and my wife and Isaiah and Joe Woods, Uncle Bill, William Hill, Annie Rice Martin, and I don't remember who else. Sometime before the fire occurred, Isaiah and I were playing partners. And whether you play a certain number of games, you play 3 games, and if you win 2, you win. If you get 2 out of 3, you win. We call it rise and fly. Isaiah and I got beat in that. I rose and Isaiah rose, and I got up, went in the kitchen, and Isaiah went out. When I got back, Isaiah was in there. I stayed in the kitchen a pretty good while, and when I came back, Isaiah was back in the room. What happened then was Isaiah was in the room, and Joe Woods came out there and said about the fire, and we all come to the door and then came out. The fire was Friendship Church. I guess Friendship Church is 2 or 3 blocks from my house. We all went down there. The church seemed like it was burning in the front as it was going back that way, burning from the front to the rear. It looked like the fire was sweeping through the building. I don't know what happened to Isaiah after that. The fire was about 8:45, and it could have been as late as 10 o'clock. So then after the Friendship Church burnt down, they started meeting at the Loganville Colored School Building. Well, guess what happened next? The 3rd arson was at the Loganville Colored School Building. Luther Gordon testified. We had a meeting in the schoolhouse that night. We left the schoolhouse at 15 minutes to 10 o'clock, and we were back there in 30 minutes, and it was a fire. I don't know whether we were smoking there that night, but we didn't leave any fire. Officer Sellers testified as to how quickly I got to the school. I suppose from what they said about the crowd that left the schoolhouse, I was there in not more than 15 minutes afterwards. I was able to get to the school before it caught fire very much because I went to the fire with the fire truck. William Hill, sworn for the state, testified, I remember the night the schoolhouse burned. I live about 400 yards from where Alfred Grimes lives. I live nearer to the schoolhouse than Alfred lives. I saw Isaiah Grimes that night. He came back to my house. That was somewhere around 7 o'clock. It was dark, it was night. He came around the window and I said to my wife, somebody passed that window. And just about a second after I spoke about seeing somebody pass, Isaiah spoke. Ragsdale was speaking to Isaiah, but Isaiah never did stop as I know of, and Ragsdale said, boy, you scared me. And Isaiah came back to my house and kept on around and going on. Isaiah eventually was charged in all 3 arsons and arrested on December 9th, 1947, along with his mother Maggie Catlin and Willie Malcolm. Miss Catlin and Mr. Malcolm were released with Isaiah's consent. All 3 arson cases were tied together and 1 trial was held. Governor M.E. Thompson commented on the arrest of Grimes by saying, I am happy to learn that the solution to this case showed that there was no antagonism between races in Loganville and Walton County. He went on to say, in my opinion, if politicians who wish to use the race issue for their own selfish purposes, and if out-of-state interests who do not understand the race problem would leave the race issue alone, good white people and good Negroes working together could solve their problems with a minimal of difficulty. After his arrest, Isaiah made the following confession. I, Isaiah Grimes, in the presence of C.J. Sarles, the Solicitor General, Mr. D.M. Pollock, and Mr. P.W. Martin, the court reporter, make this statement. Fluke Catlin died, and he had some insurance with 2 lodges. One was the Faith, Hope, and Charity, and the other Joy and Benevolence, or Joy something. I don't know what the rest of it is. He had $80 insurance in one, and with the other one, he had $100 willed to a little girl, Minnie Idonia, an adopted girl. Fluke died, and when Fluke died, they would not pay insurance to Maggie because he had made the insurance to a little girl. She wanted the money because he left some debt, and these parties were bearing down on her for the money, and she didn't have no way to get the money. And Maggie got mad about not letting her have the money, and I didn't feel like they were treating her right. As to what I decided to do about that, I was crazy, and I thought I'd get even with them, and I didn't even have any cause at all. They were meeting in Mount Zion Church, both of them. They had a church for each one. I could not tell you which one was meeting at Zion. One met in one place and one in the other. What I did then was I got crazy, and I thought I'd get even with them and set it on fire. As to what I did that night, I had some old gas. I had the month in a tin can. It was an old 5-gallon square can. As to whether I did anything to that, I got that tin can and cut the top out and made a slop bucket out of it. And I put a brace around the top, around the top of the can with iron braces. That was after the second fire I did that. It was the same can. I found the can and took the can and had to get some gas. I got the gas from W.I. Steele, who runs a filling station. I had gotten 4 or 5 gallons of gas and had about 2 gallons left. I got that gas the latter part of March and set it in the smokehouse. The first fire was Friendship, Mount Zion Church. As to what time of night that was, I was on a fishing trip by myself, and I had been fishing and came back home. As to whether I'd been drinking, I might have had a little, but not much. I got home that night about 12 or 1 o'clock, and I went on into the house, and then I got that can with the gasoline in it. I then went down to Zion. The way I went was through the backyard to a lady named Tuck's house. I crossed the Conyers Road about the Tuck house, and on a little road where you go out through a little path where the sawmill sets. When I got to the church, I took the gasoline and dashed the gasoline up on the front and set a match to it. And then I left and went back to the home the same way I came. I took the can with me. I did not use all the gasoline. There was somewhere around 3 quarts to a half a gallon left. As to what I did when I got home, I set a can in a little old house at Fluke's house. At Fluke's house is where Maggie lived, and that was on the 22nd of August. At the time the second fire happened and Friendship Church was burned, I was down at my Uncle Alfred Grimes. We were playing Florida String down there. At the game was me, Isaiah Grimes, Pearlie Grimes, Eliza Mae Baker, Annie Rice Martin, Frank Hill, William Hill, Joe Cox, Joe Wood, and I think that's all. Maggie had left there before that time. Maggie Catlin had been there and left. As to how that fire happened, I had no cause. They were playing Florida String, Rise and Fly. By Rise and Fly, when one of the crowd get beat, they had to quit, and when they get beat, 2 others got up, the best 2 out of 3. Me and Alfred Grimes played, and he and I had to rise and fly. When I rose, I went back and walked out of his front door and got the gas and went to Friendship Church. In order to get to Friendship Church, I had to pass Fluke Catlin's house where I had left the gas. I went to the back and got the can, and there was 3 quarts in it. Might have been more. I then went to Friendship Church and threw it on the front door and struck a match to it and left. I then brought the can to the house, and in a day or 2, took some hooks and cut out the top and had some steel hooks and put a handle on it. That's the one you have in the office in Monroe. That's the one. Friendship Church is a short distance from where the game was. It ain't nothing like a quarter mile, something like 250 or 300 yards. I then came back and went to playing and played 2 hands with William Hill and Joe Wood. Joe Wood is the one who discovered the fire. What he said was, "Something's burning up there." And when I went out the front door, nobody said anything about me going out. When I came back, somebody asked me where I had been. Someone in the crowd, I don't know which one. I had been gone then about 25 or 30 minutes. Now that was the second one. Now about burning the schoolhouse. I went and fed the hogs and came back by my mother's. That was at Fluke's house. I went in the house and walked off, and I said I was going off. I then went back and got a jug. It was a gallon jug with 2 handles, one on each side. I then went by Uncle Alfred's. I went in there and I sat down for a while. I left the jug out of doors when I got there. From there, I went to William Hill's, and when I got there, it was time for the lodge to have been done started. I saw Ragsdale down there. He was on the porch talking to a girl. I scared him and he jumped back. I then talked to them a minute. I then had to set the jug side of the road before I went in there. I stayed there and talked to them a minute and came out and got my jug. I told them if anybody said they had seen me to say they hadn't seen me. I was there talking to and Ragsdale heard me, and I went down to Toller's filling station and got the gas. I put 1 gallon of gasoline in the jug and paid 26 cents for it. I then went down the road below Tuck's house and came out into the field to an old house. When I left Toller's filling station, I went down one below Tuck's house and then went out there by an old vacant house out in the field. I stayed there until the lodge broke up. The lodge was then going on a while, And I was at this house, and the lights were on there, and I waited there until the lodge was out. After I saw the lights go out, I waited 10 or 15 minutes. I then dashed the gas in the front of the lodge, the schoolhouse. The schoolhouse had two doors, an outside door and an inner door. One was this way and one was that way. It had a vestibule. I was right at the door. I think the front door was locked. I was on the porch where you walk up there, and then I came back. I set fire to it. I struck a match. I stood there until I saw it catch, and I went across the field and set the jug down in a ditch, in a small ditch that goes into a big ditch. I did not carry it off. I just set it down. It was then half full of gas. I then went to the Rosebud Road and went straight across the intersection and down below Dr. Floyd's house and went through Dr. Floyd's yard. I then went to a woman named Flora Gordon's. I got there something around 10 o'clock. I don't believe I had been there half an hour when the fire alarm went off. I did not see the fire at the time when the fire alarm first rang. I then went to the top of the hill where Mount Zion had burned down. How I know it was about 10 o'clock is I estimated it by the time the show turned out. When I went through town, the picture show was turning out, and it turns out around 10 o'clock. I then went straight on. I then spent the night with Flora Gordon until about day at Flora's house. There was no one at the house but her and another lady, Willie Mae Blassingame. I'd been to Flora's house late that afternoon, just before dark. And as to how I happened to go there this same day that the firehouse was burned, well, I generally goes there when I get away from my old lady. As to whether it was about 7 o'clock, it was time for me to go and feed my hogs and things. And I didn't then stay at Flora's for long. It was getting dark when I left, and then I went home. After I got home, that is when I left and went back to my mother's house, and then to Alfred's, and then to Hill's, and then over to the old vacant house. That's where I stayed watching the folks at the lodge. As to whether Maggie ever talked about this thing, she said they would happen to some bad luck by not paying it. Nobody had any part in this burning except me. I did not tell anybody about it. Nobody told me to do it. Nobody has threatened me to tell this. Nobody has promised me anything if I told it. How I came to tell it is that they come and got me. And when I was questioned about it, I decided it was best to go on and tell it. I've been reading my Bible while I was in jail, and I decided the best thing I could do was to tell the truth about it. That is the truth, what I have told you. When I got back from the first burning at Mount Zion Church, my mother Maggie was in the house, Maggie Catlin, and Minnie and Annie Rice Martin, and my wife, Ollie Mae Grimes. And there might have been somebody else. My sister might have been there. And when I got back there, it was around 2 o'clock. Somebody might have woke up, but nobody said anything. As to how they happened to get up later on, my mother heard the fire alarm, and a fellow named Charlie Kelly blew out in front of the house and got up and waked me up and asked me if I wanted to ride down there, and I went. I went back to Friendship Church the night it burned. The night Friendship burned, I did not see anybody in the truck coming back across the highway. When that truck came by, it looked to me to have hit my uncle crossing the road. He went to the fire, and then he had run back to his house to get his gun and shoot it, and then got on his bicycle and went back. And that's exactly what happened. When he was crossing the highway to come back to his house, the big truck almost hit him. The truck stayed there and blew, and Alfred went across the road going back from the fire, and the truck cranked up, and he was running, and he liked to run into it. The truck was coming from Monroe towards Atlanta, and the truck had stopped when it started. It almost hit him. The reason I did this was on account of the way I felt they had mistreated my mother about the insurance money. I didn't have no other cause. It got on my mind, and I was jumpy. That is right, what I have said. The date that Friendship Church was burned might have been October 3rd. The schoolhouse was burned the night of October 21st. The state made great importance of the fact that the defendant, his mother, his foster sister, and 2 other persons had gone to the Mount Zion Church, and the mother had demanded payment under the insurance policy of the Home Mission Lodge, which was meeting in the church, and payment had been refused, and the church was burned thereafter on the same night. The fact that after the Mount Zion Church burned, and the Home Mission Lodge transferred its meetings to the Friendship Church, and it was also burned, and that the Loganville Colored School Building was burned about a month after the lodge transferred its meetings to it from the Friendship burn. church had when it had burned. Isaiah was eventually found guilty of 3 counts of arson and sentenced to 30 years imprisonment. His attorneys appealed the decision to the Court of Appeals of Georgia, and in a non-unanimous decision, they officially affirmed his conviction on May 12, 1949. Grimes began serving his sentence in Reedsville State Prison, officially known as the Georgia State Prison in Tattenaw County, Georgia. Now, you may think that's the end of the story, but it's not. National news coverage of this story was led by the Atlanta Daily News, and it had people reading headlines across the country about coercion of confession and Grimes being framed as a political scapegoat. Articles like the one in the December 17, 1947 edition of the Atlanta Daily World that reported, when the first press report on the burnings was made, the mayor of Loganville was quoted as saying that the Negroes were burning their churches to attract nationwide sympathy. And on August 25, 1948, the Atlanta Daily World reported that a high degree of skepticism was evoked in the case when reports and documentary evidence showed that Loganville city officials were keenly interested in having the highway property of the buildings that were burned relinquished to whites. It was said that when the Atlanta highway came through Loganville, the property of the Mount Zion AME Church tripled in value. Most property along the Loganville-Athens highway was owned by Negroes at that time. The city of Loganville sent a letter to Mount Zion AME Church on September 3, 1947, and I have obtained a copy of that letter. And it reads, from the mayor of Loganville, C.M. Byrd, to Reverend Charles C. Britton. The petitions of the members of your church for a permit to rebuild the church was burned a few weeks ago at the same location was read and considered by the mayor and council at its regular meeting. The question of the city's legal authority with reference to the rebuilding a church is being investigated. However, there is no question about the city's powers to regulate the type of building to be reconstructed. Regardless of the questions above, there are other factors involved which seriously affect your church membership and the relationships between your people and the white people of the city. This is now and has been for a long number of years a desire to relocate this church and get it further removed from a white cemetery and the unwholesome environment which has grown up around it. For many years, this church has been used as a blind for liquor dispensers. As perhaps you know, liquor was found buried under the church when it burned. The immediate area of this church has become a center for law violators of every nature and is a disturbing influence, not only for the homes in that part of the city, but for sections of the city and the law-abiding citizens. It is the sense of this body that your church membership has an opportunity to promote harmonious racial relationships at this time by a proper consideration of all the facts and arriving at a decision as to where this church shall be built. For your membership to take an antagonistic attitude and spurn the interest and efforts of their friends is but to prolong an aggravating situation and intensify opposition by order of the mayor and council. B.A. Cox, clerk. Now, following the letter from the city, Dr. Charles S. Floyd sent a letter to Mount Zion AME Church that read in part, if the officials of your church will agree to move their location, I will give you in exchange for your present lot 1 acre of ground just north of the colored school building. And if you see fit to do this, I will make you a gift of $500 cash towards helping you erect a new building. This proposal will stand good until November 1st. On January the 11th, 1948, the Atlanta Daily World reported that white citizens of the county met to launch a fundraising campaign for the purpose of rebuilding the burnt structures. They met in the bare courtroom of the then 64-year-old Red Brick County Courthouse, which was only a stone's throw away from the combined jail and residence of Deputy Sheriff Lewis W. Howard, who arrested Isaiah. The citizens estimated that $6,000 would be needed to rebuild the Friendship Baptist Church and the Mount Zion AME Church. The figures were set by C.W. Sherlock, the manager of the Walton Monroe Chamber of Commerce. Mayor Cliff H. Byrd of Loganville announced that $1,400 had already been available from voluntary contributions and insurance on the Baptist church. Friendship Baptist Church had an insurance policy for $1,200. Sherlock added that $938.25 had already been contributed by groups and individuals. After all these amounts were acknowledged, chairmen from the 16 voting precincts and a steering committee of persons from Loganville were appointed and empowered to ask leading white and Negro citizens to help raise funds in a 2-week campaign throughout the county. Although the meeting was described as one of the most important meetings ever held in Walton County, no mention was ever made as to whether or not the churches would be built on the same sites, and I think we all know they were. So it was further reported that the schoolhouse would be replaced through the purchase of a barracks building from Fort Oglethorpe and another from the War Assets Administration of Chattanooga. The new building would be larger but less substantial than the old one. The paper stated that the new buildings were to be ready for use in about a week. The Loganville Colored School was originally built in 1927, and it was partially funded by the County Board of Education, as well as the Rosenwald Foundation. The Rosenwald Foundation was established by Sears, Roebuck and Company President Julius Rosenwald and the Tuskegee Institute educator, Booker T. Washington. The foundation funded construction of schools for black children in the rural South so that the churches would not have to. They required a financial buy-in and labor from the local black communities and matching funds from white public school boards. And they built 242 schools throughout Georgia. All right, the end of the story's in sight. We're almost there. After Isaiah's incarceration, because the buildings that burned were black, local congregations in Loganville and Walton, along with civil rights attorneys, Walton County community leaders, and judges all began working together. And they played a beautiful and paradoxical role in trying to get Isaiah released. Instead of demanding vengeance, local black churches and community leaders actively petitioned for his release. Local religious coalitions consistently wrote letters to the parole board. They pointed out that for over a decade, friends and family never wavered in their testimony that Isaiah could not have burned Mount Zion. They pointed out that holding a disabled veteran in Reedsville over a decade, based on a highly suspect confession, was a miscarriage of Christian and civic justice. They continued to point to Isaiah's unblemished behavior record and his declining health. Ultimately, C.R. Yates, an Auburn Avenue druggist, was joined in the petition for Grimes' parole by Masonic Grandmaster John Wesley Dobbs and Dr. William Holmes Borders, who was the pastor of Wheat Street Baptist Church, and they were able to convince the parole board to release Grimes as long as the Walton County solicitor would agree to drop the murder charges against Isaiah. So by 1960, Georgia's political landscape was shifting under the weight of the early civil rights movement, and fearing national scrutiny, the Georgia Pardon and Parole Board finally relented, and on December 24th, 1960, Isaiah was released from Reedsville as an act of holiday clemency. Isaiah was not given a full pardon, and he remained under strict supervision of the Georgia Patrol Board. He had to maintain steady employment, avoid legal infractions, and report regularly to his parole officer. Now, I cannot find any trace of Isaiah after his release. I do not know if he came back to Loganville. I don't know if his wife waited on him. I don't even know when he died. But Isaiah played an important role in our local history, and I hope after today he will not be forgotten. Thank y'all. And I do have some photographs and some things. If y'all want, I can lay them up here with Mr. Siegler's things as some pictures, and a note that Isaiah, somebody transcribed a note that he smuggled out saying that his confession was false. That's on the back of here, and a copy of the letter from the city to the church. So I'm going to lay those up here if y'all want to look at those. And if you have any other questions, I have a lot more documentation and information, but I'll be glad to answer any question I can. But if not, thank y'all for listening to me. And I enjoyed researching that.
Awesome.
Thank you, Melanie.
You're welcome. Okay.
No.
What's wrong?
A couple, you did a good job, and I know that you did a lot of research.
About 200 hours. About 200 hours.
I'm sure. We appreciate everyone being here today. A couple of quick announcements that we have. The Loganville Fall Festival, I believe, may be scheduled for Saturday, October 17th. Watch for the dates. It normally is the third Saturday in October, and of course, we always enjoy participating in that and love for volunteers to be there to help. On Sunday, October 25th, there will be a cemetery tour, and I believe it is the cemetery next to Walgreens.
Oh, yes. You're
Next.
talking about the historic, the cemetery?
Cemetery.
Jean's distracting me. Yes,
The cemetery tour,
It's the Cook
October
family.
25th,
I don't know the date, but,
next to Walgreens.
I think we're gonna meet at the local bean. I've gotta get that finalized.
Okay.
I have a slide presentation of when that cemetery was relocated for Walgreens to be built.
Yeah.
I found those photographs from that day. We're gonna talk about the family that, and then since it rained when we did the Hillcrest Cemetery, I've picked out about 4, to go back over there and revisit for people. And then anybody that wants to stick around when we get back to the local bean, we can walk over to the, Loganville Memorial Gardens, and I have a pretty gruesome and ghastly story that occurred over there.
Melanie's put a lot of time into all of this, and we certainly do appreciate it. And I believe there may be another announcement, Holly.
Yes, Christmas will be here before you know it, and we are doing the Festival of Trees again in City Hall. Last year was a record year. We had 12 trees, most we've ever had. We had the most cannons we had ever received, 5,741. This year, we're going to be setting up trees on Monday, November the 23rd at 10 o'clock in the morning till 2. And if you know of anybody that would like to participate, put in a tree, whatever, we would love to have them. Hope to have 15 trees this year. I'm going to put the brochures over here on the table, so feel free to take one if you would like.
Thank you, Holly. We always look forward to helping the Shepherd staff out during the holidays. Does anyone else have other announcements? Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to make sure everybody signed in on the sheet, and I got your email. If I didn't, I'll just have it over the table here. We're trying to get an email list together for our members. Thank you.
And before we get out of here, we need to know if there are any people here for the very first time today. Did you all sign in? We need names and addresses, and we are delighted to have you and hope it will happen again very soon. Any other information we need to share? We certainly appreciate all the refreshments. Participate, be sure to get some, and the meeting is now adjourned.
And refreshments. And we got refreshments.
Refreshments.
All right, everybody, I'm going to step over here to the tables. I'm going to let you come on by. You're a little bit quicker than me.
Hold on, Liz. We got to leave early.
photographs.
Oh, you're doing photographs?
That's what I'm trying to do.
You can get a lot of photographs in a small amount of memory space.
Yeah.
It's the videos that take up
Yeah,
a lot of the,
a lot.
yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna run, we're gonna see a polymer that has been put in the cooler in there. And we'll do that down this morning. Oh, she's back this way. Yeah, I've got one, I've got one. This is, let me tell somebody something.
Creating us a database.
Yes, you may. You can't figure out.
All right, folks. Y'all see that table over there with those treats on it? That's where I'm headed. So I'm going to close this video out here. Y'all remember, be safe out there. Be good to one another. Do something kind for someone. And y'all have a blessed day.